welcome to our show. My guest today is Clark County School District Superintendent. The title is almost as long as your name,
Exactly.
Skorkowsky. And you've been on the job now just for a few months.
Correct.
Right? But you have grown up in the Clark County School District, which I think is a great thing, because I know the last few superintendents we've had have really come from out of town. And, you know, when you come from out of town, there must be a huge learning curve, not only wrapping your arms around what's happening at the school district, but just being in Las Vegas and being in, you know, in a different city. You know, I would suspect it's a couple of years of a learning curve. When I think about, you know, like your background and even Brian Cranston, right, was, you know, grew up in the school district. You know, and
he was there for 11 years, so it helps greatly to be able to understand all the little ins and outs of the district when you come into this job. Sometimes we have superintendents who need to come in and make some major changes, and that's what they choose to do, is make their mark in the Clark County School District. And I'm of the mindset that we need to work on what is going well, that we need to look at what not is going well or what's not getting results, and then we need to get rid of the things that are not happening and put more things in that are going to happen, and we're going to get results.
You and I were speaking for a moment before the show about how overwhelming the school district is. I mean, they're the fifth largest school district in the country. And this week in the paper, there is a story about this is the largest student body we've ever had. And for the first time, the number of Hispanic population is the majority population in the school district. All those things create new developments and new challenges.
Yes, they do. And it's exciting, while it's exciting to hit milestones like having the largest growth population that we have at 315,000, I think is 087, so just over 315,000 was the official count on Friday. What we see, though, is that the schools at our middle and high school level, they have seats available. Our elementary schools are overcrowded, and so that's one of the challenges that we face is looking at how are we going to fit all these kids into our schools and make sure that we have class sizes at a reasonable amount.
So when you say the lower school is overcrowded like that, obviously it means the demographics of Las Vegas or Clark County is somewhat changing. We have more younger families, obviously, than we've ever had.
That is true, and we also, when you look at the way that an elementary school is designed, we design our elementary schools, our current prototype is for 750 students. But what we can't do, like we can at the middle school and high schools, we don't have large classes where we can put large number of kids to reduce class sizes during that class period. So a band program may have 100 kids in that program. That means that everything else during that period can be actually smaller because we can put more kids into that one class. And so we don't have that luxury at elementary school. You have the same teacher all day long, and so you have to have space for those students.
Yeah. And typically, aren't the elementary schools, the facilities older, I would think? I know we have quite a few older buildings. You know, they're not wired properly.
Sure.
There's a story this week in the newspaper about how the monumental task of just maintaining the schools, the air conditioning. I mean, we have, you know, extremes in weather here, and with the floods and rains, and the roofs, you know, are old, and the units are old, and you know, and the facility part of it is a monumental task.
It is a challenge, and we have the extremes. We have a large number of our schools have been built in the last 20 years, since 1988. But then we have a very large section of schools that were built in the 60s and 70s. And so you have the challenge of keeping these buildings so that students have a good learning environment. When it comes to Wi-Fi, our new buildings have that infrastructure in place. When you have a building that was built in the 60s, obviously that wasn't even thought of. So now you have to go back and add infrastructure to bring them up to the standards that the new schools are in. So that's constantly a challenge as well.
It's just amazing. And then the testing part of this. There's recently some news release on some testing scores. Some of our schools did a little bit better. Some did not do as well.
Correct.
When the ones that are not doing as well, what are some of the issues there that maybe we can resolve?
There's, with some exceptions, You know, achievement you can pretty much predict by zip codes. And that's, you know, in looking at our neighborhoods that have a higher poverty level, have a higher English language population level, we have those schools that are struggling schools that are constantly challenging to meet us up. We put in a program called Zoom Schools from the legislature, where we were actually able to take 14 schools that were a high second language population and the highest potential for growth, meaning that they had the opportunity to grow the most if we put some additional funds in there.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to see hopefully some change with those 14 schools that are at the performance level that is not satisfactory. We've got to get them up. But I'll also tell you, we have some of the best schools in the state and in the nation when it comes to achievement and when it comes to activities and things that we offer to our students.
You know, I probably, you know, I'm a little bit more involved in this because I have kids that are, you know, still 3 daughters left that are still in the public school system. And at the office, we have a business partnership with the Lunt Elementary School,
Sure.
which is, you know, one of the schools that you're just
Sure.
referring to. I just want to take a quick minute to talk up this business partnership.
Sure.
Because our law firm gets involved with our employees.
Sure.
They go to the lunch school, they meet with the students there, they read to the students there. We do fundraisers. We try to provide a little extra money for books, for continuing ed for teachers. We volunteer at all the school functions. And I got to tell you, what it gives back to our employees is phenomenal.
Sure.
I mean, they all have a sense of community service. They all come back with smiles on their face, and we're there, you know, practically weekly doing this. So how do we get more businesses to get involved? Because it's a win-win. It's a win for the business and a win for the school.
We have business partners in quite a few of our schools, but they have various levels of commitment in what they do to that school. Some, it's just a monetary contribution. I will tell you, the partnership that you describe is the ideal partnership. We need our students to see that somebody out there has worked hard, they've graduated from school, and that they are in a successful career and are then turn around and giving back to that next generation. We've got to create that type of a cycle so that they see that there's the opportunity. Plus, the students who have extra one-on-one time or small group time with another adult, it's only going to allow them to increase their capacity to learn. And so the things that you talked about in that partnership are the ideal partnership and things that we need to encourage other businesses and community organizations to get involved in these schools. And having that opportunity, it becomes both that self-gratification of I'm giving back to the community, but the benefits for the students far outweigh that warm feeling that your employees feel on a regular basis.
Yeah. The story that came out this week about the school population with the number of Hispanic students. And I know I read a previous story about we're still trying to recruit teachers.
Sure we are.
So that creates, I'm sure, an additional pressure because we have to get more bilingual
Sure.
teachers.
We actually would love to have more bilingual teachers, and that's where I'm working closely with the Hispanic community to figure out how we can entice them to come here. Right now, we're not able to grow our own as fast as we need to. The piece that is most important to the Hispanic educators is that sense of family. The Hispanic community is all about family, and families go everywhere together. To get somebody to move out on their own is a challenge. And so we have to create that sense of family and it being a second family for these educators and let them know that we have a strong Hispanic community that's here to support them, to get them to make that break and move out here and teach for us. We need more bilingual or biliterate teachers as well. So it's important to find those teachers. We have to work with the Hispanic community to help us to recruit them and entice them to come. And then we have to provide them that sense of family once they get here.
When I was at the college preparatory, whatever it's called, class with my kids the other day, they were talking about one of the scholarship programs or financial aid programs, I forgot which one, encourages people to students to go into the teaching profession.
Correct.
And they will provide a scholarship if you promise to work within the education, be a teacher for 4 years?
That's exactly right. So we want them to, we help, one of the programs helps to fund their education at college, so that once they get their degree, they make a commitment of 4 years to the Clark County School District to be able to repay that. And it's a great program to do that. We have to look at more programs like that. And one of the things that we often see is that sometimes our students are not sure what they want to do when they go to college. So we're looking at developing a program for our students who do speak Spanish to be able to say, we'll give you a job as a support staff member in one of our schools so that we can use your bilingual skills in the front office or in other capacities in the building. And then we're going to work with a college or university to give them a break on their coursework so that they can do both. They can work for us and then get their degree at the same time. Obviously, we're going to encourage them to become teachers so that we can build our next generation of teachers. But if we can get that program on, I think it will be hugely beneficial to everybody in the community. Parent engagement in our Hispanic communities is something that we have to increase.
Yeah, and I also, and I was looking to you to give me an answer on this.
Sure.
Because and this is a topic that it really excites me, because I see firsthand how good our teachers are. My kids have been through a lot of the different schools in the community. We have some phenomenal teachers. You hear in the media sometimes, some negative comments about the quality of. I don't see it.
Sure.
I don't see it. My kids are at a high school, 3 of them, and every one of our three girls now that have, I don't know, 5 teachers each. Every one of those 10, 15 teachers that between the two of them they have is a phenomenal teacher. I was at the parent-teacher conference a week or 2 ago, and I just couldn't be more impressed with the. That's probably one of my kids calling now, with the commitment of the teachers and the engagement of the students. They are doing such interesting things in their papers, in their psychology classes, in their English classes, in their science, in their lab. And my kids are getting A's in math because all of a sudden it's interesting to them. I never would have expected that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I think that we have great teachers and we have great schools. We just need more of them. And so these teachers that in the schools that you're talking about there that are most successful are the schools where the teachers are actively engaged. They have changed their teaching strategies to meet the changing population, because we know our students are digital natives. They are used to the cell phones, they're used to the iPads, they're used to the computer. So these teachers have mixed it up a little bit so that it becomes more engaging to them, and that's what we have to do more of. And then we have to get the kids engaged at every school, not just at the school that you're describing, but at every school. And it is a challenge. We need the best and brightest teachers, and so finding that, this year we hired 1,884 teachers. We're back to the large growth days, so we have to find the best and the brightest of all those teachers and make sure that they're in our classrooms and that they're willing to stay there. The school that you sponsor, that you're a business partner with, one of the challenges is making sure that once we train these teachers, they don't go somewhere else, that we can keep them there so they're working with that population to ensure that there's consistency and that you're not having to constantly retrain the next new teacher that comes in the door.
How do you do that?
That is the biggest challenge. And one of the things that we found we tried some financial incentives, we tried some retirement incentives. It all depends on the work environment that they have there at that school. And if they have a positive work environment and they are committed to the children, then teachers will stay. It is all about that personal commitment and that work environment. It's not the financial aspect. It's how they feel about going to work every day.
Right. How do we get the funds, get the money to fix some of these older schools that you're constantly maintaining, to build, I guess, some new elementary schools that are not so crowded? I mean, is that the #1 problem with the elementary school?
It is, and we have a challenge. We went to the voters in November and we're unsuccessful, and we're having that conversation with our trustees in October to figure out how are we going to get by. When do we need to go back to the voters to say, okay, this is the current state of our schools, and this is what we will not be able to do at this point in time because we just don't have the funds to get these facilities going. Air conditioners are going down. We have plumbing issues in some schools, and then trying to bring the infrastructure up because all of our assessments in the future are going to be online assessments. So now we're going to have to make sure that we have the capacity to do that in every one of our schools. So it is a challenge. We're going to have that conversation. We're going to have to show the voters that the need is here. We are moving to more year-round elementary schools. We started with 3 this year. We're probably going to have several more this next year. And it is going to be difficult to maintain. We can't just rezone the entire district because even if we did, we'd still be 15% over capacity in our elementary schools.
Well, so even if you're able to get it in front of the voters, that's a couple years away.
Sure.
Right, before you have that election, and then there's a period of time to fund it, and so
sure.
What, 2-3 years, even if everything goes well.
That is correct, and it's not a quick process in any way, shape, or form. The earliest that we could go would be in 2014. You know, that's whether or not we can get everything together, and again, there's a lot of issues already on the ballot in 2014 that we would be competing against. Not directly competing, but voters will look at that and say, okay, well, if I'm going to choose, then I'm going to choose this one over this one. We have to ensure that we are the choice and that we are going to be successful in this ballot initiative.
And why do these things fail? It seems to me that people vote with their self-interest. So if they don't have a kid in school, the inclination is, well, I don't want to pay for schools. But having an educated population growing up in the school district is going to mean a safer community.
Sure.
It's going to mean economically, you know, wealthier community. It's a win-win for everybody in the long term. Is it that people just don't see it?
Well, and you know, when we went to the ballot this last November, we were asking for a tax increase, and so it's a tough ask in economic times that are not certain. And so this is part of what we have to look at now, is how do we go back to the voters and say, this is the need. We need to get our students out there in front of the voters, because if I go out and talk, I can talk about it and I can get people to support it. But if you put students in front of them, then they'll say, I'm going to support it, but then they'll walk in the door and cast the ballot for it as well.
Education taxes come from property taxes, or?
There's numerous different tax structures that we use. We get most of ours from property tax. Everything goes to the state and then is redistributed back to
So when the value of the homes go down, the amount of revenue then goes down. So
Correct.
that must have been a
It
part
was
of
a
the
huge
reason.
hit.
Yeah.
It was a huge hit for us. And then, you know, you put the cap on the property tax as well, you know, and we had some challenges with that. At one point in time when our state was going through such difficult times, they were taking part of our capital funds. They took $85 million over 4 years, and they took that money into the state to balance their budget, and then they turned around and gave it back to us through our distributive schools account. So they took our money to balance the budget and then turned around and gave it back to us. And then we couldn't use that for the capital projects that we needed.
I need to find an accountant like that.
Huh.
Kidding. They're a great accountant. You were, what were you? You were assistant superintendent. What was your job before?
Before this, deputy superintendent, but as you said earlier, I literally worked my way up through the district. I started as a first grade teacher, moved into 5th grade.
And which school were you in?
At C.C. Rano, which is at Pagosa, Washington. Great experience. I literally flew in on a Sunday and started teaching first graders Monday morning.
So you were somebody who was recruited from.
I was.
Where did you live at that time?
I lived in Oklahoma. I grew up in small town Oklahoma, and had never been to Las Vegas. I found an apartment over the telephone.
And what encouraged you to make that move?
I think at the time it was the state of education in Oklahoma was pretty sad, and they weren't paying their teachers much. And here I was, a young person, and I wasn't. My family was back there, but I wasn't, you know, just tied to Oklahoma.
Right.
Took the opportunity to come out here, and it's been the best decision I ever made.
Okay, so you went down there as a first grade teacher, and how did you get into the administrative side?
I had an amazing mentor. His name was Dr. Merv Iverson, and he now has a school named after him. And he was an area superintendent at the time, and he came into my classroom, literally spent almost a full day watching me teach. And at the end of the day, he pulled me down into the principal's office, and he said to me, you need to go to get your master's immediately and start working towards getting into administration, and I'm going to help you get there. So I had a great mentor who helped me all along the way, and it was an amazing thing because he gave me experiences that some teachers didn't have the opportunity to get. And it truly helped develop who I was as a teacher and as a professional.
What skill did he see in you? You're a first grade teacher, you're working with, 6-year-olds.
Yes.
How does somebody view that and say, oh, this could be one heck of an administrator?
I think he saw the level of my teaching, which is the mark of any good administrator, is if you are going to be an excellent administrator, you need to understand how the classroom works and understand how to teach. And so that's one of the things that I pride myself on, is that I can walk into any classroom and any situation and just feel the urge to jump in and start teaching again. And I never forget that anytime I walk into a school.
Do you miss the teaching
every
part?
day, every day. Every time you walk in, it's like you'll see a classroom and you think, okay, well, I could do this, or I could try this, or I could take over this. And the first day of school, we were at Cambiero, which is right next to Lunt, and I walked into a kindergarten classroom, and there were all these little kindergartners sitting there, 20 of them, and I said to the teacher, can I read them a book? So brought all the kids over. There were probably 25 adults in the room, including TV cameras and photographers, but it was all about the kids. I couldn't get away from those 17 little faces just looking at me.
What are the most important characteristics that a teacher has to have to be successful?
I think that first of all, they have to care. Kids don't care what you know until they know your care. And I think that's important. I think that they have to be open to listening to their students and reading their students and being able to understand that we can teach them teaching strategies and we can teach them content, but it's that relationship piece that makes the difference. And if the students feel like that they connect to the teacher in a positive way, that teacher has half the battle won right there.
And the teacher becomes a role model.
Exactly.
The kid tries to emulate, and then you get the approval of the teacher, and
kids
succeed.
Can't wait to come to class. And so when you get kids that want to go to school, and like in this situation, it sounds like with your 3 girls, it's when they want to go to school, that's gold right there.
They were talking to me about, I guess there's a move to start high school a little bit later. Because I guess there was a study done showing that teenagers do better a little bit later in the morning.
Correct.
Yeah. What's your feeling on that?
I think that I've seen all the research out there, and I would love to be able to do that. We have done that in a couple of our schools. Some of our high schools now have 8 o'clock start times. I don't believe we have any 9 o'clock start times, and the reason being is that athletics and activities tend to play into that piece. But we do have some schools with an 8 o'clock start time. They do see some positive benefits to that. It would be great to be able to do that in every one of our high schools, but the challenge is how do we do that with athletics and activities? Because right now football games are over and basketball games are over at 9 o'clock at night as it is.
Right.
That pushes it into 10 o'clock, and so it becomes a challenge with that.
Exactly. I mean, even you have your early bird classes.
Sure.
Sometimes they're in school by 7, so they're getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Some of our high schools, they actually start at 6:05 with the early bird classes.
What can parents do?
Actually, there are ways to be involved. There's degrees of parent involvement. I think the first and foremost is you need to be on ParentLink so that you understand exactly what your child is doing every day.
Can you explain what ParentLink is?
Sure. ParentLink is a system that can either be utilized on the computer or on any smartphone. It's an app on the smartphone. Parents can check their child's attendance, they can check their grades, they can check their missing assignments, they can interact with the teacher through email. It is a way for them to stay engaged with their student and their education, even if they can't be in the school building. And that's the lowest level that we want, is to have that access there. And then we want to encourage them to be in the school and be part of their child's education. You talked about the parent conference that you had recently. It's essential that they understand exactly where their child is at in the learning process, what they can do to assist them at outside of school, and where their child needs to go, what goals they need to hit.
And with the email function in the parent link, my experience is you email a teacher, they get right back to you.
They do.
It's the easiest way to contact them, and all of them seem really happy. In fact, they say, hey, don't leave me a voicemail. Just email me, and I will call you right back, because it's like my kids. I mean, they don't bother with voicemail anymore.
No,
it's all texting and email, right?
Texting, email, Instagram, all of Twitter, the whole thing. That's exactly right.
I noticed that some of the classes, that some teachers really, I don't know if allow is the right word, or don't mind if kids have their phones in the classrooms. Other teachers are very strict about that. What is the overall policy of this district?
We actually changed our policy this last spring. The Board of Trustees adapted their policy to what we call a bring your own device policy. And some of our schools have moved into where in certain classrooms or in the entire school, they allow students to use their own technology. I will tell you, to get a student to get up and go look up a word in a dictionary is very hard to do. If they whip out their phone and they go online, they'll find the definition, and then they'll find a sentence, and then they'll get back to work immediately. So it's using technology that they understand to be able to help them grow in their educational needs.
Then we also have these schools like West Tech and these specialized technical schools, which I've also have been to and visited, which do an amazing job of preparing students for jobs.
Correct. They have certification programs. All of our career and technical academies have certification programs. Our magnet schools may not have a certification program, but they have a very specific slant when students go to ATEC. It's math, science, and so they can get into the different fields of mathematics and science. Each of these programs allows students to come out most of the time with a certification program and be able to start working in a field actually so that they can either continue their education and pay for their education, or actually go right into a working experience. We have, Southwest CTA does a project-based learning experience, and they bring in business and community members. There were students who literally had job offers upon graduation waiting for them, and so we need to build those programs. I don't have enough seats for all the kids that want to get into those programs.
Yeah, I know there's a waiting list to get into some of these schools.
Sure.
It's amazing. Do we have any time left? We're out of time. Hey, we could talk. I could talk about this for a long time. I'm sure you do talk about it all the time.
I do, and I love it. So thank you so much for the opportunity, because there's some great things going on in the district. Like I said, we have some great schools. We just need to get more of them.
Thank you so much, School District, Clark County School District Superintendent Skorkowsky. Thank you, and good luck.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.